We are back again. Sorry about that. Looks like everything's caught up now. Now, one of the things I also wanted to show you, in order to see the mask, you can hold down the Option key and click on the mask, and you can see it right there. You can also click on the backslash button, and that will show it as red. And you click on that again to undo that. Now, what I was trying to show you is, so what do we do if we've made a selection, we've worked on a mask, we've got everything just how we want it in this curves layer, but we want to use that, we want to do maybe a color adjustment in that very same area. I don't have to go back and redo the mask and redo whatever selection I may need. I can simply take this layer, drag it down to the little piece of paper with the folded corner, and it's going to make a copy of it. Now that it's made a copy of it, I've effectively got two masks here now that are identical. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to make another curves layer adjustment, and I'm going to increase the red, because what I'm trying to do is I want to get some more warmth up in red and yellows up in the top layer there. So now that I've got that, I go in here to my copy, and I click on the mask, and I hold it and I drag it up to that top layer and let go, and it's going to ask me, do you want to replace your layer mask? I'll say yes, and see what happened. It deleted the layer mask off of that copy layer and moved it up to the curves adjustment where I had that color, and now I don't need this anymore. So I'm going to hit the delete key to get rid of that. So there, I've got two identical masks, and one is affecting the color and one is affecting the density. Now I could also have opened that up, and I could have gone into made a color adjustment here. But let's say you wanted, instead of doing a second curves layer, I wanted to do a hue saturation, or maybe I wanted to turn the top half into black and white, or do something else with it. That's one way to. I just mainly wanted to demonstrate how you could duplicate a mask there. So now the other thing I wanted to show you was selections, and you asked about saving selections. So let's say I'm just going to make a real simple selection here with my lasso tool, and if I've gone to a lot of trouble, maybe I've used the magic wand and I've gone and I've added some to this selection. It's kind of crazy, but let's say if I tell you what, let's make this more of a real selection. I'm going to get rid of that lasso. I'm going to have mine in the. Remember, you've got a new selection, you've got add selection, and you've got subtract selection. So I'm going to subtract this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this magic wand, and my magic wand is set to the plus right now. So I'm going to get some of this, these sort of little tide pools, and select some of those. So let's say if I wanted to use that to change the color of those tide pools. Now that I've done the selections, and I'll zoom in on this so you can see a little bit better, but when I do these selections like this, there's a very fine edge there. It's a very sharp edge on a selection. And I will show you. I'm going to click on an adjustment layer here, and since I've got this selected, it's automatically going to give me a mask for that. I'm going to make an extreme exaggeration adjustment here so you can see what's going on and what I mean by a sharp edge. See how it's clearly defined where my mask was and where it wasn't. So I'm going to back out of this, go back to where my selection was. And what I want to do here is I'm going to modify my selection. I'm going to go down here to modify, and I'm going to feather it. I'm going to feather it about 10 pixels. And now when I make an adjustment layer, you'll see I get a little bit softer edge on that adjustment. So I'm going to go back here again. Let's say I feather it, and I'm happy with that selection. I could go up here to select, save selection. I could give it a name, Tide Pools. Click OK, and that's going to save that selection. Now I'm going to hit Command D to deselect it, and I could go and I could play around with this image, make a bunch of changes to it, and then later on I could go back in here and I could say load selection. Now it's not going to automatically show up here, but I just have to click on that down arrow button, and there it is, Tide Pools, and I'll say OK, and there it's loaded my selection back there. Give me 1 second, just let me see if there's anything else that I missed that I want to show you. And oh, I was going to show you Lightroom preferences and external editing. So when you that is really strange. It's giving me a question mark. Huh. Okay. So obviously it doesn't like this while I'm doing the video. It's taxing my computer a little bit too much. Remind me, and I will show you again in class. I tell you what, maybe if I quit Photoshop, I can do this. Okay. And what happened to my Lightroom? Oh, there we go. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. So when you, I'm going to go down to my preferences and just show you Lightroom preferences. Okay, got it. External editing. So when you right click on an image and say edit in Photoshop, it's going to open up that image in Photoshop. Here, let me back out again. So if I go right click, edit in Photoshop. Question is, what file format is it going to make it? So what I want to do, and that it goes the same for edit a smart object also. It could do it two different ways. It could do that as a TIFF file, or it could do it as a Photoshop file. So when I've got external editing, the default is actually TIFF. So your Lightroom may be set up where it's going to be a TIFF file. I do not recommend that. I recommend you go in here and change that to a Photoshop file. You could also set the color space. I recommend ProPhoto RGB, and I also recommend 16 bits. This doesn't matter. That can change at any point. Your total image resolution is still the same. Okay, I think that's it, and good luck with the homework. Call me if you got any questions or email me, and I will see you next week on Monday night. Thanks. Bye.